a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work.
Well, don't eat my earring. Good afternoon from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, the ravisher of Matibu, and Aurora herself, the main ravisher of Matibu. Well, today is yet another day packed with incident, positively packed. So without further ado, I am going to plunge right in, if I am given permission to, by Madam, who is not even allowing me to open the computer. Oh dear. We will keep it reasonably light today, if we may. Okay? Oh, it's not that we're not covering serious subjects, but hopefully we can cover them with a bit of levity. So, Jackie Edwards says, I picked up what you weren't saying, and I have thought this for some time now. I hope you're wrong. Well, I am delighted, Jackie Edwards, that you and several other people picked up what I wasn't saying. Because some matters are best left unsaid. Having said that, in life we have to make light of serious things, especially serious things. Otherwise, life would really be grim. As Tanya Briscoe says, there's nothing worse than someone without a sense of humour. And she, of course, is referring to Meghan. Fortunately, that's one failing no one can accuse me of possessing. In fact, I'll let you in onto a little secret. When I was suing Associated Newspapers, their barrister said to them that they better settle with me. And one of the grounds for them settling with me was that I was intelligent. I think they used the word highly intelligent. And another was, she has a great sense of humour and she's going to come across as really sympathetic. In those days, libel trials in this country were jury trials. So, a sense of humour is an essential, unless, of course, you're a royal duchess from Montecito, in which case you don't really need a sense of humour because you've got a hide of tungsten and the determination of 7 devils. Keyboard says, since the S word appears to be forbidden here today, let me put it in Shakespearean terms. If Harry clasps the asp to his bosom, I mean the reptile asp, and not the evil American asp he has married, well, that's your opinion. I couldn't possibly agree. I'm sure she's a wonderful person, but you're entitled to your opinion. But I need to say, for legal reasons, that I couldn't possibly agree with you. Never, never, never. But if Harry takes arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing them, ends them, or if Harry should fall upon his sword, know what I am saying, then Better Up will be finished. You can just see the headlines, can't you? Sorry for laughing. I can't see the headlines. Chief Impact Officer bumps himself off. Better up, up and away. At last, Impact Officer makes an impact. And the best one of them is, Gone with the wind, not gone with the wind. Oh dear. Well, since this is all very hypothetical and really not very funny, we need to make fun of it and laugh, I think. So, and hopefully none of it will ever happen. But I just had to read that out. I thought it was so witty. Better up and away. At last, impact officer makes an impact. And gone with the wind. Oh dear, oh dear. Mary Johnson says, I've always thought the family knows Harry isn't all there. I think that's why they appear to go easy on him. He's paranoid. My grandmother was a paranoid schizophrenic, thought people were after her. I get it too. I'm bipolar, but under care and relatively fine. Harry needs to get help, but he's the only one who can get it. And the tragedy is, he's not got the help he needs. What he has done is fallen into the hands of an arch enabler who, for her own reasons, has maximized what hopefully other women would have minimized. I mean, we all have the gamut of emotions and failings as well as virtues from A to Z in lesser or greater forms. Most of us have a little bit of something and a lot of another, or a lot of one thing and a little of another. But basically, everybody has, from goodness to badness, the possibility. Now, sorry, if you feed that which is destructive, you become ever increasingly destructive. If you feed that which is constructive, you become ever increasingly constructive. If you believe that you are so great and so special that you know best, and then you meet somebody who confirms your greatest hopes about your greatness and your power and how wonderful you are and how potent you are, and releases the arrogant genie from the bottle, well, you get what we are seeing from the prince he was born to the man he has become. And the tragedy is, he doesn't realize that what he has become is not admirable. I'm afraid Aurora is tampering with the microphone as she plays with Mickey. It's really very sad. And yes, Mary Johnson, you are absolutely right. And this is why I have been saying for some time now, people need to have compassion and need to understand that he's also a member of a family. And they are doing their best to dis-enable him, not to enable him, to dis-enable him. For instance, they have de-royalized him. He hasn't taken the deroyalization to heart. He still swans around because Sunshine Sachs and his other PR people and the American media will insist on presenting him as if he is still an actual fully paid up royal, when he is no longer an actual fully paid up royal. To lose the privileges that he lost and the rank that he lost should give you a clue as to the fact that they are doing their utmost in as constructive and hopeful a way as they can to keep him at a distance, but with the door open for help and recovery of all that would be positive in terms of health, etc. Jane Arnold says, do you know how Thomas Markle is doing? Has he heard from Meghan? Well, Thomas Markle had a birthday earlier this week, and he received no birthday greetings from his daughter. How is he doing? He's broken-hearted. The man is broken-hearted. He is suffering from a broken heart. He wavers between coming to a tremulous acceptance of what has happened and being grief-stricken for the loss of the daughter that he thought he had, knew he loved, and thought loved him. It is a tragic situation. Again, we need to have compassion. Helen Curran says, just watching the footage of Hazy and Crazy's visit to the UN, could she not have invested in a decent bra? Talk about cherries on a cheese board. Well, honey, if you got it, you gotta flaunt it, haven't you? You know, I mean, how else am I gonna get everybody to flick their light switch? I've gotta take my 2 fried eggs and make sure that they bubble on the pavement, and I've also got to rock those hips. Yeah. How else am I gonna let everybody know that I'm a hot tamale? Hot, hot, hot. And that everybody needs to want me. Everybody. Man, woman, and everyone else, including all the gods in the pantheon, because I'm the greatest goddess of them all. To continue the question from Helen Curran. Sorry, Helen, for interrupting you so rudely. They manage to debase any and every cause they attempt to attach themselves to. When will it end? Well, I hate to say it, but I do not see attention seeking of this enormity and magnitude ending in anything except a definitive conclusion. We don't live in a world where you can exile people and they are out of the way and silent ad infinitum. That's number one. Number two, we live in a world where everybody has rights that we need to respect, even as they trammel all over our rights to silence and serenity, to just mention 2 of the things that have been trampled underfoot by, as they are called, what are they called? Has been, never was and never will be. I don't see it ending any time soon. Sadly, I would love it to end very soon. But as long as it doesn't end in the dreadful way that some members of Harry's family thinks it will end. I think we are in for the long haul. Dorothy Stiltner says, did you see Harry's audience at his speech at the UN, where there were at least 10 people in attendance in that rented closet? Dorothy Stiltner, you're right, it was at least 10 people. When I first read this question, I thought, Dorothy Stiltner is such a naughty woman. Then I realized you said at least 10. I thought possibly you meant maximum, but I'm so pleased to see you meant minimum 10. Maximum of what? Shall I be meow meow? Maximum 20 or 30 in a room that holds hundreds. Oh my dear, what? Harry and Meghan are so popular. Isn't it amazing? They're so popular. And they've got such wonderful security that their legion of fans was not able to get into that room. So it looked as if they were unpopular. It looked as if people don't care. It looks as if they are irrelevant. It looked as if they are, as they'd say in Jamaica, a poppy show. Anyway, I shouldn't interrupt the question. I'm being very rude. Poor Harry had his head down most of the time, like he was so embarrassed. Well, I need to interrupt. He had good cause to be embarrassed. And I'm also sure Megsy Baby gave his hand a massive squeeze on the way in when that journalist asked him what he thought of Tom Bower's book. I mean, how dare they be so impertinent as to ask such a question? Didn't that woman know she's dealing with greatness? Didn't she realize she's dealing with the most popular, impressive, wonderful couple on earth? And she asked such an embarrassing question. I would have thought Harry was keeping his head down, not only from embarrassment, just from that question, not to mention the embarrassment of looking at an empty room. Fortunately, I have never, in all the years that I have been in public life, had to speak to a virtually empty room. And I am nowhere near the celebrity that Harry and or Meghan is. So that says something about their desirability, doesn't it? Anyway, to continue, this fake facade, whatever that is, I'm sorry, I don't know that word, but I will sort of take it for granted that it makes sense within the context of the sentence. This fake facade was orchestrated by the media and the Me Show. It certainly was. Sunshine sacks, come and shine, sack full of sunshine on that meeting. Because, oh, you did. Oh, Harry and Meghan didn't pay enough. Oh, how can you be so wicked as to deprive them of the hired hands, the clack, who you should have been filling up the hall with so that it would look as if they were popular? Are you trying to make fools of them? To reveal to the world that after this fabulous global achievement, that Harry and Meghan arrived and he spoke to a virtually empty hall, maybe 3%, no, not even that, 1% capacity. Talk about embarrassing. Then she continues, Meghan really strutted her stuff. She had some kind shoulder swing going on. Oh, puke in my boot. I've never heard that expression before, but it certainly is graphic. I'd suggest you puke in their boots. That's what I'd suggest you do. Don't puke in your own, my dear. Puke in theirs. Well, I think I've sort of answered the question as I was reading it out. So, dreadfully embarrassing, the whole thing. Just excruciating. The sort of situation where if you're in it and have any sensibilities whatsoever, you think, my gosh, where's the nearest rock? I want to crawl under it. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Meghan has no embarrassment. But Harry, I think, has some and converts it into rage. I mean, remember, Harry has, from he was a baby, been brought up to believe he was as important as the future King of England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. I should say Northern Ireland, since it's not the whole of Ireland anymore. But that's how Diana brought him up. Fatal error, as we can see. But she did. Dave Woods says, Dear Lady Campbell, as I saw pompous little Harry at the UN expel a hot air balloon of, a hot air balloon of platitudes that he had nothing to do with honouring Mandela, and as I saw pictures of him standing in front of an empty room, don't be wicked, Dave Woods. It wasn't empty. There were at least 15 people there, maybe even 20. Don't be mean. We can't have you being mean. Naughty, naughty, naughty boy, David Woods. Naughty. You need to be charitable. At least 10. And not an empty room. Just a virtually empty room. Anyway, I'm being really naughty today. So, and as I saw pictures of him standing in front of an empty room, consistently using the ghost of his dead mother to give himself an identity, I wonder if the Netflix cameras were there to record an altered documentary titled The Rise and Fall of the Harkles. This could be a winner. What do you think? Very much love and appreciate your program. And Dave Woods, I appreciate your question and the naughty and wickedly, wonderfully naughty way in which you phrased it and observed. So I hope you realize when I am reprimanding you, it's with my tongue firmly in my cheek. That would be a program that people would want to watch. Worldwide. The great and glorious H&M. I don't think anybody's going to want to watch that load of codswallop. And yes, the Netflix cameras were there. Maybe they're going to Photoshop in people into all those empty seats. So when they pan the cameras into the General Assembly that doesn't take place until September, as opposed to the General Assembly Hall, which exists all the time. Let's nail down a few facts here. Are they gonna show empty seats? Well, maybe they will if they can crank up the everybody hates Harry and Meghan because they're racist. They being everybody. not Harry and Meghan, because God forbid Meghan could be racist when by her own admission she really despised being mixed race. Read what she has previously said. So we're not accusing them of racism, are we? But the accusation of racism could be rather more fairly levelled against them than from them. Aurora has arrived to chew my bracelets to pieces. Aurora. Well, she can chew them to her heart's content. They're rather indestructible where her teeth are concerned. But Aurora, you'll damage your teeth, not the bracelets. Give them a break. Come and say hello to everybody. Yes. Aurora says she needs some love. Oh, don't chew my earrings, please. Well, you know, the reality is the UN visit, the Jubilee visit, everything is about marching. It's about the money. It's about raising their profile, keeping themselves topical, injecting themselves into situations to make themselves relevant, ratifying their supposed importance, which in reality everybody knows is virtually non-existent, because everybody now knows they are important posers, but they are not important personages. Netflix needs content. They need constant activity. They need to be able to provide material that the public, they hope, will find interesting. How is Netflix going to spin the narrative? Well, of course, they have the rights to all of the footage. So they're not only thinking of this set of programs or this program or this issue. They are thinking 10 years down the line, 50 years down the line. They have footage that they can use to make something else. They're not stupid. Harry and Meghan might not have realized this, but they have realized it. Well, the speech was clearly written by Meghan. Some of the words are Meghanisms of the highest order. The ideas are Meghanomaniacs' ideas. Now preached by her number one cult follower, has been, who is now free. He's no longer trapped by the restraints and the morality and the rectitude and the principles and protocols of the royal family. He is now released into freedom, disentrapped by his main trapper, Meghan. But he doesn't realize that he's trapped. He doesn't see her as a trapper. He sees her as a godly, or saw her as a godly figure, to worship at her altar, to defer to her at all times, because Oedipus has found his Regina. Oedipus Rex has found his queen. Well, the delivery was deadpan, but it was, I'm here to tell you, I do public speaking at times. It was rehearsed to within an inch of its life. And contrary to what some people will think or say, it was well delivered. Harry and Meghan were aiming for gravitas. He has to be very serious. So serious that he has the weight of the world on his shoulders. Because if he doesn't feel the pain of the world, everybody's gonna need his greatness and hers. It's aiming for gravitas. It's like handicapping a horse in a race. They want to be taken seriously. And their obsessions were littered throughout that speech. Misinformation, disinformation. What does that have to do with Nelson Mandela? He mentioned Nelson Mandela's name repeatedly. But it wasn't to praise Nelson Mandela. It was to attach his dinky little dray cart to Nelson Mandela's superb vehicle. The reality is that Harry and Meghan are really terrified of the truth and of civil liberties, and that's why they are rabidly against them and won't. Remember, the First Amendment, that's bonkers, needs to be repealed, etc., etc., etc. And as for criticizing the American democratic system, because the American Supreme Court has said that Roe versus Wade is unconstitutional, should never have been recognized as constitutional, and that they are returning the rights of the states to legislate upon that which they wish to legislate upon. That is not a danger to democracy, Harry. You don't. It's called democracy in action. I ask you, Christine Anderson says, it just occurred to me that Harry never gave credit to his grandmother for knowing Nelson Mandela for multiple decades. He only gave credit to his mother. He doesn't want to associate his grandmother with Nelson Mandela because that would blow a hole in the royal family is racist narrative. Very well spotted, Christine Anderson. Also, he knows that he better watch it when trading on his grandmother's name too overtly. He's trading on his royal rank destructively, detrimentally in terms of the interests of the British nation and the British monarchy and the Commonwealth's interests. So there is possibly a measure of tactfulness involved with not mentioning his grandmother's name. But since his name isn't worth mentioning, nor is hers, he has to mention his mother's. And my God, doesn't he flog her for all it's worth? I think it's just disgraceful. But you're right. The subtext is that he has to skirt around the royal family being racist. Although he did say that it wasn't his grandmother or his grandfather. Of course, he knew the way both of them felt about him marrying that creature. It's there in my book. Beatrice says, and I need to read this out because this is a wonderful comment, and we are chatting with each other. So, Beatrice's contribution to the conversation is, we are witnessing a global assault on democracy and freedom, says the hypocrite who is trying to ban free speech in social media and the press, and who thinks that the First Amendment is bonkers. The First Amendment of the USA Constitution states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This is what Harry and Meghan are rabidly against and regard as madness. Well, I want to now go to Nelson Mandela's grandson's opinion of Harry and Meghan and the wonderful speech, which celebrated nothing about Nelson Mandela's life, nothing about the progress that the world has made, even if it has sometimes slipped back as well. Certainly South Africa is in a much more invidious position now than when Nelson Mandela was alive. Kate to Create says, apparently Nelson Mandela's grandson Ndaba is laughing at the failure of Harry's woke speech at the UN, stating how Harry just doesn't get how far apart his world is compared to the obstacles Nelson Mandela fought for. Good for Ndaba for speaking out against this crap and re-evaluating a day that is supposed to commemorate and honour his grandfather's legacy. Well, Harry and Meghan seem to be perpetually surprised when people respond to the tsunami of fecal matter that they spew forth upon the world. And when we say, we don't want to be soiled by this nasty thing, please stop it. They don't get it. Gail UK 71 says, there he goes again, criticising world leaders on climate change, one private jet ride at a time. Well, he's too important, my dear, for his actions to count. I mean, when he takes a plane and consumes 10 times the problem, shall we put it like that, when he contributes, let's not shilly-shally, when he contributes 10 times as much to the emission of 10 jets full of 200 and 300 people, and it's just him and one or two other people. That's because Harry is 10,000 times more important than you or me or anybody else, at least in his mind. And therefore, the rules that he seeks to apply to us must not apply to him. I think you need to understand that. To resume the question, and when is he going to stop banging on about his mother in such a wounded animal way? When he doesn't need any more money, sweetie pie, when he doesn't need any more money. Between now and then, I'm afraid Diana's corpse is being dragged out of her grave. And rather like Miss what's his name, Bates in Psycho, stood up and dressed up. Really distasteful. Why can't Harry respect his mother's memory in a humble and measured way as William does? Because he's not William. He doesn't have the values, the behavior, or the substance of his brother. And also, William has dedicated his life to the service of the monarchy and the British people. Harry has dedicated his life to the service of Meghan Markle, who needs to make enough money so that her lust for great wealth and power will be satisfied. Harry doesn't realize he's working towards an objective that could possibly include his demise. Some dork. Lynn Baldwin says, British humour is an acquired taste. I am positively mad for your raunchy, racy jokes, but many of us fellow Canadians find Mother England's funnies vulgar and don't get the jokes. On a more serious note, I'm very concerned for the health of Prince Harry. Yesterday at the UN, he appeared very distraught, looking like he was on the verge of a mental health crisis. His whole life, my dear, has become a mental health crisis. He also appeared to be under the influence of God knows what when he was delivering that very lackluster speech, which was supposed to be a tribute to the late, great Nelson Mandela. Well, he was under the influence of his teacher. That speech, take it from me, was rehearsed to within an inch of its life. No, H, no, come on. You can't do it like that. No, H, no, you've got to be more serious. Did I see the hint of a smile, H? I mean, we're speaking about serious things. You've got to look serious. Or H, you're going to regret ever having lost that nickname that you acquired at the palace when we first knew each other. No BJs, H, no BJs. And I'm not saying bad Johnnies either. Harry has been in the public doing speeches as a British royal since he was knee-high to a grasshopper, the question continues. While he was never a phenomenal orator, he certainly was more than competent with his royal common man shtick. Well observed. That's my comment. To continue. Yesterday's speech should have been a cakewalk for someone as experienced as Harry. Lady C, what do you think about Harry's very marked reversal of abilities since leaving the royal family? It's easy to make fun of Harry, and God knows he does himself no favors, but he has zero experience in coping with real life, let alone thriving with that dumpster fire better known as Meghan. I think he needs a referral to Betty Ford ASAP to cope with both his substance abuse and mental health issues. I hasten to add, for legal reasons, my dear, we cannot assert that he is abusing substances. So, if that's your opinion based on his conduct, that is your opinion and you're entitled to it. But if you are asserting it as a statement of fact, we cannot do that. So I just make that qualification for what it is worth. Remember, we function in a civilized society within a legal framework. So, your belief is not the same thing as a fact. And even when you know something to be a fact, until you can prove it, you better remain stum about it. Better Up won't, oh, I continue the question now. Better Up won't have a leg to stand on if their chief impact officer flies over the cuckoo's nest. What are your thoughts? Better Up might not exist by then. Better Up might implode under the pretensions of its programs. Better Up and the life coaching and the advice that it gives, there's very firmly into mental health territory. But it is not a mental health organization. But I'm sure that's a bridge they will find a way of crossing if and when they come to it. Because we're dealing with very adept spinners who can turn any crock of rubbish at the end of a rainbow into gold by spraying it, photographing it in the right light, and presenting it as the real McCoy. But you know, insofar as his speech is concerned, as I said, they're aiming for gravitas. And they think that depression is the same as gravitas. The two things have completely different tones and weight. Me says, or M-E, not sure which it is as it's two capitals. It was said that Markle and her own besties, aka makeup and hair teams, loved to bully people, lowly production assistants and the like, by cracking snarky comments about their appearance. It begs the question how she somehow felt holier than thou towards Harry's friends. She was obviously determined to be offended. Of course she was. How else was she gonna lay down her marker and show H from the word go that he had the answer to his prayers? Rebel, you found your companion in arms. Anyway, to continue, I seem to be doing an awful lot of interrupting today. She was obviously determined to be offended. Well, when you're feeling inadequate, if I may say so, to interfere and interrupt yet again, if you feel that you are out of kilter with everybody and you had some sense of your own unimportance, you would actually process the experience as, well, if there are 29 people with one attitude and me with another, maybe this is their way. Maybe I can have some respect for it. But no. Her arrogance, impertinence, pushiness, and plain plumb dominatrix attitude required that she wade right in, and he thrilled to the experience. Pusillanimous springs to mind. Pusillanimous, hiding behind the skirts of a woman who he wants to do for him what he didn't have the guts to do for himself. Very Lily livered. To resume the question, On a note related to the shooting party weekend, it was said Markle tore into her personal assistant because she did not purchase the blanket throws in the right colour red, which she had planned to hand out as mementos to their shooting party guests. So it seems she was okay with the shooting party concept. Well, at least at that point. That was another objection to discover down the line. Question resumed. Do you see a pattern? Making sophomoric jokes and attending shooting parties are acceptable only sometimes. It was said she even moved just Harry to sell the firearm collection given to him by Prince Philip. Well, it certainly was sold. His Purdy guns were sold. And I can tell you, to interrupt myself yet again, there are certain things in our world that one doesn't do. One doesn't sell certain things under any circumstances unless one is totally penurious. You give them away if you don't want them. You don't sell them. It is the mark of disrespect. It also smacks of greed. To resume, on a related note, maybe Meghan Markle was offended by the anti-trans jokes based on the speculation about her own sexuality. That's an interesting observation. That could well be, but even if she had been, there is no excuse for one person to cram her values and her taste and what she regards as acceptable conduct down 29 other people's throats. It doesn't work like that. And the amazing thing is that Harry thought this was admirable. And the other amazing thing is that she figured out so early on in the game, because it is a game, it's a very destructive game, but it's a game. And she figured out very early on in the game that the way to get Harry was to be an objectionable witch. And witch doesn't necessarily need to begin with a W. If you want to move right up to the top of the alphabet, A, B, etc., you can start there as well. The whole thing is beyond a joke. And it shows not only how arrogant and impertinent she is, as I said earlier, but how badly behaved and ill-mannered. Because I was brought up to believe that if somebody made an error socially, you did not correct them. There is a famous, doubtless apocryphal story of both King Edward VII and King George VI drinking from a finger dip bowl when one of the foreign prime ministers, not knowing what it was, drank from it. To an extent, that has slightly changed now, but not to such a great extent that you would actually say to someone in front of everybody to embarrass them, you wouldn't correct them. I mean, for instance, I'll use an example. When I was in the jungle, one of the girls said, "Bon appetit." And so I waited, and afterwards I said, so she wouldn't make the same mistake a second time in front of the whole wide world, I said, "My dear, I hope you won't mind my saying, but the tea is silent. It's bon appetit. And she was very appreciative because I wasn't humiliating or embarrassing her in front of everybody. I wasn't dominating. I wasn't making out that I should lay down my imprimatur at her expense, which is precisely what Meghan did. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, if it had such appeal for Harry, where does the rot lie? Does it lie within one of them or both of them? And I would respectfully submit the pudding is in the eating, and we've all swallowed enough of the BS to know what it is and how it tastes. Callie Flowers says, if it were Nelson Mandela instead of Gloria Steinem, and there was a photograph published recently of Meghan Markle walking out, I think it was in New York a few days ago, with Gloria Steinem when they were all there at the time of the UN visit where Harry made that speech in the General Assembly room, but not to the General Assembly. And certainly not to more than 1% of capacity. If it were Nelson Mandela instead of Gloria Steinem, I imagine Meghan Markle would have the exact same semi-amused, milking the moment, walking with a cute old person look on her face as she did in the photo of escorting Miss Steinem out to her car yesterday. Meghan has no respect for older people except as far as she can use them, no matter who they are. And do I agree? I certainly get what you're saying, Callie Flowers. I get what you're saying, and she has a smug, self-satisfied, I'm so superior, and and the cat just swallowed the cream. Look at me. I'm the best thing since sliced bread. Well, not a talent that she possesses that Gloria Steinem would be interested in knowing anything about, I would have thought, to be quite cutting about the matter. Thriving Development says, Lady C, please comment on H&M's interaction at the UN. It could be seen clearly that Harry was all smiles, and may I interject, and very relaxed. And when Meghan grabbed his hand, his smile dropped and he stiffened. That's my interjection. Then he let go of her hand and she grabbed his hand with both her arms and put it on her knee. Later on, he was making conversation with the man on his left, and Meghan was desperately rubbing his shoulder and hand, trying to make him reorient towards her. These small things give a real insight into their relationship dynamics. It's like he recalls and shrinks in her presence. I can't shake up the feeling that we've seen this type of behavior before. Sorry. Shall we give Johnny Depp a call? I think he has first-hand experience in this. Aurora, honey. Aurora, can you please go and get the phone? Motty wants to call Johnny Depp. Aurora says, don't bother me, Motty. I'm chilling. I won't disturb Mickey either, so we'll just rub along without. I did see it. I looked at it. I thought it was excruciatingly embarrassing. That degree of me neediness is sick. It really is sick. It's sickening to behold. It's sick-making. in its consequences. And what Harry and Meghan don't seem to realize, and he certainly should have realized it because he was genuinely famous. She, of course, wasn't. She was always grabbing for attention before she met and became famous gratis him. But she has maybe 5 years experience in being a public figure. She doesn't really know, or didn't really know, how to behave in public and what is required of public figures in terms of civilized and acceptable behavior. And she's busy giving subliminal messages to the world. Look at how wonderful I am. Look at what I got. I'm much better than you. I got myself a prince. Yeah, I did. And I've got so much power over him that when I touch the middle of the back, he moves his right foot and twitches it. When I touch the top of his left shoulder, he raises his left arm and scratches his nose. You see how powerful and potent I am. There's a real element of boastfulness that comes across in her conduct that is very unseemly. She doesn't understand, possibly because of her massive ego and her desire to be viewed by the world as she views herself, and clearly as he has viewed her, at least up to recently, that a lot of Meghan goes a very long way, and a little of Meghan is far more desirable than a lot of Meghan. These are some of the reasons why there are such concerns for Harry, because the people who know and love him can read the signs. It's not only the public that is now becoming aware of the signs. It is the people who know and love him, who see things being paraded as if it were a fashion catwalk with couture garments, when it's nothing but transparent nylon and of no greater quality or merit than that. Hardly the stuff of an haute couture fashion show. Baggage Claim says, "Hi Lady C, love your videos and admire how well spoken you are. Thank you very much. Can you please comment on how Sam Kashner made a statement correcting Tom Bauer in his book's account of the Vanity Fair situation with Meghan Markle? Kashner says Bauer has the wrong end of it." Well, may I say, I don't know Mr. Bauer at all. If I've met him, I don't recall. Sam Kashner, I have crossed paths with in a very personal and private capacity. Nothing to do with me personally, something to do with him personally, and somebody who connected herself to me. And so I have had very positive, which were helpful to him, it's got to be said, interactions privately with Sam Kashner. I know he is a respected journalist. I also know that Tom Bauer would not have made the claim he has made unless it had merit. And Richard Kay did a similar thing to me that Tom Bauer has had done to him by Sam Kashner. When I wrote, what book was it? Oh, I forget. What book was it that I wrote? Oh, I think it was the British edition of the Real Diana, and I quoted directly Richard Kay, and he gave an interview denying the veracity and accuracy of what I had said. And I phoned him up and I said to him, how dare you accuse me of something I didn't do and which you know I didn't do. I said, you have uttered a totally misleading statement about our conversation. And he said, well, you shouldn't have said blah, 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 and you should. I said, why shouldn't I? It was true and it was factual, and I told you what I was doing, writing the book, that is. He said, well, I'll simply deny it. I said, oh, will you? I said, if you deny it again, I've got it on tape. I said, I taped you. He said, you taped me? Outraged. I said, of course I taped you. Do you think I was born yesterday? I said, why wouldn't I have taped you? I don't trust a journalist as far as I can see it, and I couldn't see you. I said, I taped you, and I've incidentally still got the tape. I don't ever get rid of things like that. Ever, ever, ever. I'm sure Sam Kashner has done a version of the same. As simple as that. Because just as how Richard Kay needed to preserve his position and make sure that his job was so secure that nobody would ask an awkward question, I think Sam Kashner has fallen foul of the same, shall we say, vulnerability. And he was fulsome in his praise and regard for Meghan and Harry. Because he works for Vanity Fair, Sunshine Sachs has an inroad in Vanity Fair. It has a highway from the beginning of the building right to the top. And Sam Kashner doesn't wish to compromise his job or the security of his job. That's my take on it. I could be wrong. I could be doing him a grave injustice. And if I am, I hasten to apologize and withdraw my mistaken belief. But somehow, I suspect I'm not mistaken. And I suspect the injustice has been done to Tom Bower. Patty Tierney says, Lady C, your opinion, please. In an excerpt from the much anticipated Tom Bower book, he refers to Lilibet as Harry's daughter. I know that he chooses his words carefully. What are your thoughts about this? Is this an indication, rightly or wrongly, that while she is the daughter of Harry, she is not the daughter of Megsy Baby? Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I haven't read the book yet. I hope it's being delivered today, and I will read it, and I will report on it. Between now and then, I'm not really prepared to stick my neck out and speculate. I learned a long time ago, speculation is for real estate developers and or fools. I've always said to my children, the world is full of people who make false assumptions. Don't waste your time making a false assumption. Wait for the situation to develop, then make a considered judgment. That's my modus operandi and will remain so. And now, because Ivana is being buried, I am going to end on an Ivana note. Minnie Prepper says, I remember decades ago a story that appeared in a grocery store tabloid about Donald and Ivana shopping at a Target store for one of the kids' school dorm accoutrements. There was a photo of them at the store, and I remember thinking how cool that was. Edit. Kmart. Even more endearing. Well, I'm afraid, my dear, these are American establishments, and those of us in England won't quite know the difference, but I think we get the drift. And we will finally end with Maria D'Angelo, who says, Thank you, Lady C, for your comment regarding Ivana Trump and her family and some of the vile things that are being said on the internet. My dad knew both Ivana and President Trump. He has always had kind things to say about both in big block capitals of them. My dad did all of the marble work in Trump Tower. He also did the marble work at the Trump's apartment in the tower and their home in Connecticut. He liked and respected both of them, but he absolutely loved Ivana. Once, when he was working on their Connecticut home, he walked in and found Mrs. Trump on her hands and knees alongside the maid, scrubbing the floors. He also said she would always get to work at Trump Tower before Mr. Trump. She was as much of a workaholic as he is. She also adored my dad and always treated him kindly and with respect, as did the former president. My dad and mom were invited to the opening of Trump Tower, and Mr. Trump also invited him and our family to their Connecticut home to spend the day and have a barbecue. My dad also told me that the former president always treated him with respect and was one of the very few people who never made fun of his accent. He is a Sicilian immigrant. I will always have fond memories of the stories my dad told me about the Trumps, and I will always be grateful to them for treating my dad with respect and dignity. People saying these horrid things about her and the family are beyond pathetic. She was a wonderful, classy woman, and my dad and our family send our deepest condolences to her family. And I would like to say, I send my condolences to this Trump family because she really was quite something else. I know nobody, and I know an awful lot of people, who had a negative experience of Ivana Trump, with the exception of Liz Shackley, who did try to double charge her and lost the case. No one else. Somebody who was that universally respected had to have been a woman of merit. And I can only say I am sorry that she died so young and so pointlessly, really. But people trip down the stairs all the time. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell. And please remember, keep the questions and comments coming in. This is a conversation, and conversations are not a one-way street. God bless and goodbye.